Arthur, where do you feel that one went wrong today?
5 minutes before the end of the first half. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, definitely stronger, before that. We know they've got a couple, quality players, and on transition they've still got the ability to hurt you, but we got into so many good situations. Concede such a poor goal, get a penalty a minute later, miss the penalty. So ultimately, it's still not going our way at the moment. And second half, we started okay, but game was going to open up and you needed to have a bit of quality to also break them down and then also not get hurt on transition. So they actually could have had a couple more as well as the game progressed. But we're just getting into good situations and lacking a lot of belief in that last third of the ground.
You mentioned belief, that last third. I know Beckham missed the penalty. It seems like that's the flavour of the month, missed penalties at the moment. But he seems to maybe be clutching at chances a bit this season. Do you think that's fair? Can you put your finger on why that maybe is for him?
Look, he's probably going through a rough trot in terms of, but it just doesn't fall your way, and when you do, you've missed a couple of big chances, and he's got to work through that. He's got to work through that in his career because he had such a good season last season, and obviously he's under more scrutiny this year. We tried to get more numbers around him today, which we did, and to give him a bit of support. And it worked for us in a lot of occasions. We got into really good areas with Reno and Gus getting on the ball, Josh making some good runs, but you need to score goals, and ultimately we couldn't do that today, and they hurt us when it mattered.
You mentioned the kind of quality they were able to inject in the game. I guess then bringing Daniel Arzani on kind of indicates the discrepancy between the budget they've got and the one you're working with, right?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think that does, yeah.
Are you likely to be able to strengthen at all, coming into the next couple of weeks? Where do you sit at the moment?
No, not at the moment. We're not in that position, obviously. As a club, we're in a different circumstance. So, we understand that, and we've still got players here that need to do better without thinking that you need to sign someone else to make yourself better all the time. There's players here that need to perform better.
Obviously, the first half, that opening 30 minutes, players are able to kind of slice the back line at will, just weren't able to finish. I guess how do you go about fixing that, because it seems to have been a long-standing issue this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean it's a quality sometimes, it's a belief at other times. But like you said, you're saying it yourself, the first 30 minutes we're slicing through and we're getting into these situations. I don't think you can do much more than, walk it into the back of the net. So we just have to concentrate more. We have to concentrate more. We have to get, create even better quality chances. But we are creating today good enough situations to be scoring goals today. And you score a goal and the complexion of the game would change. They would need to open up a little bit more, and probably the game would be on the other foot as well. So if you can't do that, you'll be chasing games, and against teams that play really well on the counter-attack, that's going to be difficult.
Speaking to on the TV post-game, Piscopo said, it's on us, we need to be better as players. I guess knowing that the players are kind of taking the onus for some of these issues, how do you work on that on the training pitch? If the players know that they're the ones that are struggling and they need to be fixing it, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's on all of us. It's not just on players. So, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the team, the way it sets up, the type of football it plays, and ultimately at the moment it's too inconsistent. It's not far off. It's not far off because, like I said, you're in that first half, in that first 30 minutes, and you're playing some very good football that's creating very good situations to score goals, but you're not scoring them. And when you're not scoring them, you got to make sure that people don't lose their heads too much. I felt probably in the last 20, 30 minutes of that game, that's not how I want us to finish a game. Jack actually stops it from being more, because we're so desperate to score a goal, and desperation can turn to a lot of anxiousness as well. And it's about being composed and believing in yourself when things aren't going as well. And that's for everyone, the players need to keep believing in themselves, more importantly, because you look at yourself in the mirror and, you don't lose your confidence overnight. So it's important that doesn't, continue for too long, and they reflect on the areas that, they can do better and try to be better again tomorrow.
I don't want to say the schedule's played too much a part of it, but you have spent, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say probably a good 2/3 of the first half of the season against either the top six from this season or the top six from last season, good sides. Do you think maybe that's played a factor and that it might ease up a little bit with a better second half of the season, scheduling wise?
No, I don't think that's something we can try use as a possible reason for anything that's happening. I mean, at the end of the day, the team that's first, we took them to the last minute. We lost 2-1. We had probably one of the best performances against them of any team all year. The team that's second, we beat them away from home. Adelaide, we beat them away from home. So ultimately, Wellington, who's now picked up, we've beaten them as well. So everyone can beat everyone in this league, but you can't concede goals like that and expect to win games. So even if you're not scoring them, you just can't concede those type of goals. It will be good. The only thing that hasn't done us any favours is playing on our home ground really has changed a lot because of the surface. And, like I said, some teams in the league have played 8 out of 11 games at home so far. We haven't had that kind of schedule. So, when we go home, it needs to be a very tough place to come to, and we need a lot of reasons for that to happen.
I guess the thing with the draw and the table as it is, Arthur, it's not all doom and gloom. You're one win, I think, from outside the 6, and then we've seen the last couple of weeks. If a team can pick up 2-3 results, the narrative completely changes and the mindset changes in the players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no thoughts about you're out of any race or anything. That's for sure, because this game today, you're in the top 6 again at the end of the game, and now we're not. And the only thing is, you play against a team who's not far from you. Now they make a bit of a gap. That's a gap that hasn't existed up until now. So that will start to happen in the league for a few teams. That's reality of as the league progresses, it does start to split itself. So it's important you don't fall too far away. Like I said, I think there's a lot of potential in the group, but we're not realising it, and ultimately that's on me, and need to assess it and make sure that we can turn it around very quickly and start scoring goals, more importantly.
The NPL season's about to get back underway, and I know that Newcastle don't play in the top flight, but is there anyone coming through the academy it's in the lower division that might be able to help push a couple of these players for spots?
Look, that's a top question, Steve. I arrived at this club 18 months ago. I sat with people in positions for the youth at that stage and asked them how many players had the potential from the academy system to come in, and their answers to me were quite bleak, which meant that work that needed to be done over 3-4 years was neglected, and all of a sudden you can't just push youth players into a first team if they're not ready. Now, I admire what Central Coast do. I admire how they've gone about it. I admire what Adelaide do. But make no mistake, they didn't start that 18 months ago. They started that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were scouting the best talents, whether they're from their own state, from other states. So it's always interesting when that comes up about the locals, because I would love to have a team full of young Newcastle kids, and I'm sure over time, we've got Gary back in the club now, and Gary's overseeing the academy, and I'm sure over time that, he's the right person to really start to generate some players that want to come through, because there's a lot of talent in the region, but it needs a proper pathway, and it needs people that are invested in that. It's easy to pinpoint the head coach, but youth development starts way before that. Starts way before it gets to the head coach. So people that had been in places for a long time, I think they're questions that maybe, need to be asked as well, instead of just sitting on the side commenting about why certain players aren't given a chance. I tell you what, if there's the quality there, they'll always be the first choice. And there is starting to be that now, because, when I arrived, the youth team was 21, 22 years old. I don't know anywhere in the world where 21, 22 is still classified as a youth player, to be honest. As it stands, we have the second youngest average age in the league weekly. That's our starting 11, the second youngest age. So we're still a very young team. I believe in promoting youth, and I know they've got to be good enough to do that.
I guess just one last one. It's just Mark Natter. Is there any sort of lingering, because he took the big falcon to the head in the first half? Any issues there, or just? Yeah,
he's got a bit of a hit, so he's going to have to be assessed and see, because I think he got hit maybe 3 times in the course of the game in the head. All right, thanks.